Hey Blades fans, welcome back to Hertz Arena for another Florida Everblades game day today. It is game 2 of this 3-game home series against the Adirondack Thunder. Will Henshaw alongside Jake Maurice. And Jake, the best team in the North Division, came here to Hertz Arena on a 17-game point streak, and the Blades snapped it, a 6-3 win on Wednesday night over the Thunder.
I mean, doubling up the top team in the North Division with a huge offensive night felt great. 2 goals in each period for Florida, very consistent, spread out offense. Wasn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a really solid effort all throughout the matchup that got Florida a much-needed win, snapping their own 5-game skid and moving back into a playoff spot.
Thank you. With the story of this game, you got to talk about that top line. Bobo Carpenter, Oliver Chow, and Joe Pendenza, each of them having multi-point games, and each of them taking the 1, 2, and 3 stars of the night. Bobo Carpenter leading that pack with 2 goals and an assist. So a really productive night from your top guys.
Yeah, and when your team is struggling a bit, that's the guys that you need to step up, and they did in a big way. I mean, I can't even remember the last time Chow and Pendenza were separated in games where they were both playing their chemistry. Even going back to last season in that Kelly Cup championship run has been great to see, and it seemed to have really elevated ever since they both got bumped up in the leadership core, with Pendenza getting the C as the captain and Chow being gifted an A. And Carpenter, he's been the right guy for that line. They've kind of been rotating a few different players through there, trying to find the right guy. It seems Carpenter is the one that has the most success with them, giving them a bona fide elite shooter in the ECHL to pass to and set up for those kind of opportunities. A guy who's not afraid to rush the net like he did for his second goal on the rebound late in the third period. And he just seems to be kind of that right third guy that they've been looking for alongside a really dynamic duo of Chow and Pendenza.
Now, Cam Johnson actually allowed the opening goal of this game just a couple minutes in, but then Florida bounced right back. Nate Staios tied it up just a few moments later in the first period, and then Sendin scored even later into that first period to give them a 2-1 lead into the break. So it was a really pretty dynamic couple of opening minutes, but once Florida had that lead, they did not let it back, even though Adirondack started to kind of inch back closer in the second and third period.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was helped along by a Neuber fight. I think 7 seconds after the Adirondack goal in the first couple of minutes, Neuber gets ready, drops the gloves against a tough customer in Darian Skio, and that gets the crowd riled up again. Staios off that energy in a nice spot scores. And yeah, Florida, they never trailed again in the game. I believe Adirondack was able to tie things up early in the second period, but once again, Florida quickly able to respond. That's some of that just the benefit of playing at home in front of your own fans, especially when they get the energy from something like a Neuber fight that always gets people going. So you got to look for that again tonight. It's going to be another physical game. It was surprisingly physical to me for a game between 2 non-divisional opponents that haven't seen each other in 2 months. The teams, they looked like they remembered what happened the last time they met up. And with a guy like Nico Blochman coming off his suspension back into the Adirondack lineup, I doubt that's going to change. So you got to be ready for another 60 minutes of hard physical hockey.
Now, something head coach Brad Ralph talked about before Wednesday's game was just shot totals and peppering the goalie. And Vinny Papura had a very busy night in the crease, 40 shots on net across the game. He turned aside 34 of them in the 6-goal night. But it was a very aggressive night in terms of getting pucks on net, and all the goals were pretty scrappy, down low. You know, you wouldn't really qualify a lot of those goals as being pretty goals, but they're goals nonetheless, and that's exactly what Florida should be looking for later tonight.
Yeah, they don't have to be pretty, they just have to count. And when you're getting that many shots in a game, 40 shots, consistently spread out too, it's not like Florida just dominated one period that carried the mail all the way through the match. That was a solid 60-minute effort offensively. It showed up on the goal scoring sheet. It showed up in the stat column. I know head coach Brad Ralph and assistant coach Anthony Peters, they were both pretty happy with what they saw from their team's offense last night. And you just got to keep that rolling again. It's going to be a different goaltender tonight for Adirondack, so that provides different looks. Vinny Papura, Tyler Brennan, Jeremy Brodeur, a very elite trio of goaltenders that you don't see often ran in the ECHL, but they all do a really good job. Papura faced a little bit too much heat last night, and you got to make sure you're doing that again to whoever's next up.
Now, Florida, with the win, are bumped back into a playoff spot. Now officially in 4th place in the South Division, now ahead of the Orlando Solar Bears, who are on an absolute cave right now. They have not won a game, and I believe it's an 11-game losing streak.
11 straight losses for the Solar Bears.
Orlando not doing too hot. Florida able to jump them in the standings and now sitting at a playoff position for the first time in a couple of weeks now. They were in there at the start of the year, and then they started to drift back down, but back in a playoff spot, and that definitely feels good. Kind of relaxes the team a little bit, and now if you can just kind of maintain this pressure, try to string together a couple wins. You can put some distance between yourself and the Solar Bears.
Yeah, you control your own destiny. I mean, Orlando's going to be here next Wednesday. That'll be a huge matchup. Right now, it's only a 1-point lead for Florida. Certainly not comfortable at all. We could be talking about something completely different tomorrow, depending on tonight's game for Florida and Orlando. But now you also look up the standings. So South Carolina won their game last night. They're now sitting 7 points clear of the Everblades for third place. Certainly sizable gap, but over the Everblades' next 10 games, they're going to be seeing the Stingrays in 5 of them. So that gap can vanish pretty quickly. We saw what happened when the Everblades played Savannah in 5 straight games, how Florida was able to basically push the Ghost Pirates into the basement and leave them behind in the playoff race. A chance to do that the other way, climb up and catch Savannah, is coming up soon. But right now, you got to take care of business. You can't be looking too far ahead in the standings, too far back either. You just got to focus on where you are right now and what you can do tonight to get a little bit closer to a playoff spot officially.
Adirondack still very comfortably the top spot in the North Division. They have had a fantastic season so far. That is their first regulation loss of 2024 on Wednesday night, so certainly not a team that is to be trifled with lightly. So, Jake, we can expect Adirondack not too pleased that their streak is now over. They're going to be looking to take a win tonight.
Yeah, and they are a team that is run off of effort. They're the old cliche of the sum is greater than the parts. That's the way it is for this group. They all play with such a high level of intensity all game long. There were points where they outworked the Everblades, generated turnovers to get their goals. That's where they're at their best. That's where they find success. And you can imagine now that they've officially lost in regulation for the first time in the new year, they're going to be looking to get revenge, get right back into the win column again, and keep stretching up their North Division lead in what has been, to this point, arguably their most successful season in franchise history.
The number 1 team in the North and a newly minted playoff team in the Florida Everblades. So, Jake, I think it's time we get into the Griffith Group of Downing Fry Realty. 3 keys to the game.
Well, the power play for Florida was unfortunately not a strong point on Wednesday. Adirondack, had a shorthanded goal, and Florida didn't really generate a whole lot on their man advantage. Adirondack is the second best PK in the ECHL, sitting 0.1% behind Florida's PK. But it's a tough unit you're going to go up against, but you certainly got to do better than they did on Wednesday night. Second off, the turnovers, particularly in your own zone. 2 of Adirondack's 3 goals on Wednesday came off defensive zone turnovers from Florida, and all 3 of them came off turnovers overall. So Florida, they got to make sure that they're strong on their puck. Get the heart out if you need to, if you don't have anything, an open passing lane up the boards or into the middle. It's better to get it out of your zone and have Adirondack take back the puck than give it away in your own end where Adirondack can immediately pressure for something. And then finally, you just got to be ready for another 60 minutes of hard hockey, because Adirondack, as I mentioned, they are a team that is all about their effort level. They're not a super flashy team. They're not a team that relies on splash plays. They get it done by just going out on the ice and giving it their all every single shift. So Florida's got to be ready for that tonight, particularly with an Adirondack team coming off of a loss and looking to keep building on their North Division lead.
Really good game teed up tonight on Canadian night. Enjoy Canadian food and beverage options and music by Canadian artists all night long. Should be a great one. Puck drop at 7:30. We will see you there.